Today we're going to be talking about linear equations, how to get particular information from an equation, how to tell the difference between equations, and how to build equations. So let's get started with some vocab. In the book, in Chapter 2, Section 2, there are these 5 vocabulary words that we need to know. Linear equations, y-intercept, x-intercept, dependent variable, and independent variable. So you need to make sure to write those down in order to know what we're talking about in the future. They're all highlighted in yellow. Please do so before we get started on the next section. First, we're going to get started talking about slope. Slope is something that we've been practicing for many years, and a bit of a refresher for you is how to find the slope if you know 2 points of a straight line. You can find the slope by y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 if your 2 points are x1, y1 and x2, y2. You have to forgive my my numbering. I can't make smaller numbers. So as an example, if 2 points are 3, 2 and negative 9, 6, my slope would be found by taking the second y value and plugging it in minus the first y value, the same as the x value minus the y value. You would subtract those two on the top, and you subtract the 2 on the bottom. So this is my there we go. This is my y2 value, and this is my y1 value. This is my x2 value, and this is my x1 value. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We simplify it, we get 4 over negative 12, which simplifies to negative 1/3. You try. Find the slope of the points negative 2, and 4, 2. Is it A, 1/3, B, 3 over 2, C, negative 3 over 2, or D, 2 over 3? For more problems like that, please do page 67, numbers 11 through 19 to practice finding slope. Equations come in many forms. The main 3 are the following. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. Point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. The goal for this chapter is that you recognize each form by name, and we're going to be using slope-intercept form particularly to build equations when given different pieces of information. So we're going to practice recognizing each form. You need to know how to recognize what the form is in. In standard form, both x and y are on the same side of the equal sign. So that's only one where that's true. In point slope form, it uses a point which is made up of x1 and y1, and the slope, which is made up of m. Slope-intercept form uses the slope and uses the y-intercept. You can also tell because y is by itself, and it's the only one where y is by itself. And that's why it's useful for functions. So you could just plug something in for x and get an output, input-output pair. So we're going to practice each one. What form is y equals 3x minus 7 in? Hopefully you said slope-intercept form because y is by itself. The slope is 3 in this case, and the y-intercept is negative 7. 18x plus negative 7y equals 0. Because x and y are on the same side of the equal sign, you should be able to tell that this is in standard form. Y minus 3 equals 1/3 x plus 10. In this one, we have y paired with a number and x on the other side of the equal side paired with a number times a fraction. This is in point slope form. The slope is 1/3. The point is negative 10, positive 3. This one is 33 equals negative 2y plus negative 2x. What form is this in? Since y and x are on the same side, you can tell that this is in standard form. Y plus 7 equals x minus 3 times 8 would be in point slope form. because you have your slope here, even though it's not necessarily in the right spot, it can be out of order a little bit. you got a y and a 7 on one side and x minus 3 in parentheses on the other. This equation would be made up of a slope of 8 over 1 and the point 3, negative 7. f of x equals 1/8 x plus 2.5. This is a function, and the equation that is best written as a function notation is slope-intercept form. The slope is 1 over 8. The y-intercept is 2.5. Y equals 0 is a tricky one. This one's actually also in slope-intercept form. Y is by itself. There is no x, but you can also think of no x as 0x. So it's 0x plus 0. Simplified is just this. So it's basically a line with 0 slope, which is a flat line, going through 0 at the origin. 1/3 y minus 2x equals negative 10. Should be in standard form. You got y and x on the same side. Even when they're out of order, it's still in standard form. 2 times the quantity x minus 5 equals negative 2 plus y. That one's in point slope form. Because the negative 2 plus y is on the wrong side, it should be over here, but it doesn't really matter that much. It's in point slope form. Okay, how to use slope-intercept form to build a function out of data. So we're going to create an equation out of things that we know. So for example, a function with a slope of negative 1/2 and input 8 gives input 8 giving output negative 1. We know some information here. That we know that the slope is negative 1/2 and the point is 8, 1. If you plug in 8, you get out negative 1. So those are your x-y pairs. What we're going to do is we're going to plug our information into this slope-intercept form. We're using slope-intercept form today pretty much exclusively. So our y value is negative 1, our x value is 8, our slope is negative 1/2. When we plug that in, we're going to have all this information. What we're not going to have is b, which is our y-intercept. So we need to find the y-intercept by plugging in those values and then solving for b. Negative 1/2 times 8 is negative 4. Bring down the negative 1. Bring down the b. Simplify by adding 4 to each side. b is 3. So now we know what the b is, which is our y-intercept. We know what the slope is, which is negative 1/2. So we plug those into slope-intercept form, and there's our function. So we can write an equation, or you try this. You write an equation with slope 2, and the input's 4, and the output's negative 2. Is it 2x minus 10, negative 2x plus 4, 4x minus 2, or 2x plus 4? For more problems like this, you want to do page 68, numbers 20 through 25 all. If we want to write an equation with different information, instead of knowing the slope, but we have 2 points, an input and output pair, so input 1 and 4 leading to output 5 and negative 1, so 1 leads to 5 and 4 leads to negative 1, we have 2 points. So in order to make an equation here, we can find the slope of the line going through those 2 points. So we use a slope form. It's going to be negative 1 minus 5 over 4 minus 1, which simplifies to negative 6 over 3 down to negative 2. So we know what our slope is. So now we can take either point, 1, 5 or 4, negative 1, and that slope, which is negative 2, and plug them into slope-intercept form. Now I've written it twice because I'm using 1, 5 for this one, and I'm using 4, negative 1 for this one. So I plug them in, I simplify. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Get b by itself, and look what happens. 7 comes out on either one. So it doesn't matter which equation you use, you're going to get the same number as long as you do the math right. Now, we're going to plug in 7 for b, and we're going to have negative 2 as our slope, and there's our function. So you try. Write an equation of a line with inputs 5 and negative 3 leading to outputs 0 and 2. So 5 goes to 0, and negative 3 goes to 2. Find the slope, find the y-intercept, plug them in for slope-intercept form. Page 68, numbers 28 through 31 are the problems we want to do for this section. Okay, the last thing we're going to learn is how to graph something in slope-intercept form. It's the most common form. It's in function notation, input and output values. It's very easily graphable, but you need a little bit of practice. A lot of people think that they start with the slope because it's the first number that comes up in the equation. But in fact, you're going to start with the y-intercept. Start by plotting the y-intercept on the graph, and then use a slope to find another point of the line. Then connect the points with a straight line. So for example, y equals 2x plus 3. First, plot the y-intercept on the graph. So, y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So that's 3. Second, use the slope from this point to find the next point. So that means we're going to go up 2, because it's 2, and over 1. Because this as a fraction is 2 over 1. So up 2 over 1, and then we connect the dots. And that's the function y equals 2x plus 3. If I plugged in an input in x, for example, -1, I'd get an output, which would be -2. So you try. F of x equals -1/3 x plus 5. That means our y-intercept is 5, and our slope is -1/3. Possible solutions. Graph it to find out. You're going to want to do page 68, numbers 42, 43, 44, 54, and 58 for practice on this section. And that's it for slope-intercept form and linear equations for Chapter 2, Section 2.